Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Right.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hey everyone, my name is DJ and you're watching the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. I want to talk about the best Commander stuff in 2021. I'm going to talk about the top 5 best cards, my favorite 5 cards, but also just the good things that happen in Commander. I think starting off, we have to focus on the Commander decks that we've had. Imagine yourself, how many Commander pre-constructed decks were released this year? How many? This might actually floor you, but 15 different pre-constructed decks were released this year. I have to count them, I'm sorry. 2 Commander decks released with Kaldheim. Commander 2021 that released alongside Strixhaven had 5 different decks. Then we go to the Adventures in Forgotten Realms and we have 4 Commander decks along with that. And then we have Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt. Together, both of those sets had 2 Commander pre-constructed decks for a total of 15. It's a lot. It's a lot. You know, I used to buy all the pre-constructed decks and that didn't happen this year. But one thing with the flood of these cards, we have noticed that there's been a reduction in cost for some of those staples. You know, it used to be $1.50 are now super duper budget with all of these pre-constructed releases. That may let me make my recent video of 100 staples for under $25. So check that out if you're interested. I have mixed feelings internally about so much product. But I can't deny that there are cool cards out there that I've put in my own Commander decks, so can't argue that much. Next, I want to talk about some good looking cards, and there have been a lot of them this year. You know, however you feel about Secret Lairs, I think that the Secret Lair Artist Series is perfect. It gives artists a space to kind of explore and do what they want and show off their style, and they're not really constrained by, you know, what they've been told to create. But it's not the only really good piece of alternate art that we've gotten this year. I think that the Kaldheim frame border is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite borders and favorite art styles out there for Commander cards. Speaking of great frames, I do have to mention Strixhaven Mystical Archive cards. Those are some great alternate arts, some really cool frames, but also I think that they were just a hit. The reprints that were in that set, that little core set, were awesome. They were relevant. They were important. I really loved the fact that Teferi's Protection was printed in there. That was a card that needed a reprint and needed a promo, and we got them. That's great. Natural Order was an expensive card, and it was brought down in price. Mizzix's Mastery and Chaos Warp got really relevant, great reprints in 2 different styles, not to mention these insane Japanese versions, but also seeing that difference in price. It ends up being kind of great because they were in normal booster packs. Great decision. Next up, we have to give a shout out to White slowly getting better. It feels like with every set, we get another tool to make White just a tiny bit better. Shout out to Archaeomancer's map. People were hyped about getting extra land drops. Shout out to Welcoming Vampire. I love the new Mentor of the Meek action. Of course, Modern Horizons 2 is really great. We got Esper Sentinel, which is some relevant early game card draw. Solitude, which is making waves and super expensive in a bunch of different formats. Like, these are good tools that White is getting, and I think it's going to continue happening next year. You know, Solitude and Esper Sentinel weren't just a gift to White decks. The entire set of Modern Horizons 2 was phenomenal. And so I want to give a shout out specifically to that set because it had great Commander cards. It expanded archetypes. It was fantastic. I also want to give a shout out to the old border reprints from MH1 in that because Modern Horizons 1 was great for Commander and all of those old border reprints in there were really good. And so we got cool versions of cards that we all play and also more copies of it out there into the world. So great job. Plus the old border looks good. I mean, Time Spiral Remastered did a great job introducing that old border too. So thumbs up there. For Commander, there was something printed this year for literally everyone. I was trying to think of the best, most popular archetypes or tribes and see how those were supported this year. And it's crazy because almost all of them were heavily supported. Let's talk about the most popular archetypes, artifact themes. There was an entire Commander deck and an entire theme in Modern Horizons 2 based around artifacts. Okay, second most common, life gain. Another whole commander deck devoted to life gain. How about the next most popular, equipment or auras? They had an entire commander deck plus new swords and like a new Cauldra weapon too. Like there's tons of support for these. Also like Enchantress and Spellswinger and Planeswalkers, all these popular archetypes get so much support. Let's talk about the tribes. The tribes got hit really hard too. We had commander decks based on zombies, vampires, werewolves, humans, elves, spirits. All of these were heavily supported, along with things like dragons. We had new elder dragons. We had new squirrel support even. Like there were tons of popular tribes that got a bunch of support. And so literally looking back at 2021, I think WotC went out of their way to give something to everyone. So everyone got some cool cards this year. Hopefully you did too. I want to talk about my favorite cards from 2021. And starting off at number 5 of my top 5 is Lelia the Blade Reforged. I think that not enough people are attacking in Commander, and so I love Lelia because it attacks so well. On turn 3, it's a 2/2 haste that immediately gets a +1/+1 counter, swings in there, and every other turn, it's going to be swinging and drawing cards and growing bigger. And actually, I found that red exiles quite a few cards, and so Lelia was just snowballing into something bigger and bigger and bigger, attacking even more, synergizing with +1/+1 counters. Like, it was doing exactly what I wanted, and so Lelia gets my number 5 slot. Speaking of my love for attacking, let's make everyone attack with Kardar Doomscourge. There were quite a few good goad mechanics out here. It comes down, it can come down from your command zone, make everything attack, and it also has this drain effect when attacking creatures die. I really like that too, because if you're pressuring people's life total by having everyone attack everyone else, the drain is also really real and can get people dead fast. So Kardar Doomscourge is super fun. I also love that the good call time art is under $0.25, so it's just a really good budget card also. At number 3, we have Wandering Archaic. Just 5 generic mana for a 4/4 avatar, but all your opponents have to look at their hand with their instants and sorceries and say, do I want to give DJ a copy of this, or do I want to wait 2 more turns? Which is just a great thing for people to have to ask themselves. On the backside, Explore the Vastlands, 3 mana sorcery, so really inefficient for a card draw spell, but you know what? Sometimes I use it, and sometimes it ends up being really good when I need that land. My number 2 for this year is Mystic Reflection. Oh my gosh, Mystic Reflection is so much fun. It costs 2 mana for an instant. You can also foretell it and cast it for a single blue, but it says choose target non-legendary creature. The next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature. I have used this offensively and defensively multiple times, and it has worked out so well. My opponents are putting in some big planeswalker I can't handle, or some gigantic creature, and suddenly, oh, it's a mana dork, or oh, it's an insect token. Feels amazing to provide that kind of counter. But also, on my own side offensively, I've flooded the board with tokens and suddenly turned them into big, relevant creatures, and had this one card sort of combo off and take over the game with a massive army out of nowhere. It is so much fun to use on both sides. My number 1 favorite card from 2021 has been Professor Onyx. Oh my gosh. The Magecraft ability on it is so much fun. Tendrils of Agony is just kind of a crazy card that's really hard to pull off in Commander, being able to storm off. But Professor Onyx provides this on-board storm mechanic that is so great. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's just, the static ability is great. All right, let's talk about the 5 best Commander cards in 2021. Starting off with number 5, we've got Tergrid. Tergrid drives everyone mad. It is so powerful. The whole game ends up revolving around Tergrid because when she hits the battlefield, everyone's super frightened of an edict effect that will essentially take over the game. And so everyone is obsessed over Tergrid, but if you let that player develop their mana, get infinite mana, then they can just play the backside, play the lantern, and drain everyone out. Tergrid is powerful. Next up, we have the cycle of lands, where they enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. These are just phenomenal. You should not be keeping 2 land hands, so these should never be just stranded coming onto the battlefield tapped. I like to compare them to the battle bond lands, and the battle bond lands have shot up in price. These are still under $5, and you can still get cool borderless versions for relatively cheap, and so I think that these are just so good for Commander that they deserve a slot on the top 5 list. And number 3, we have Dothy Voidwalker. Oh my gosh, the potential for stealing something huge is so high with this card. It hits the battlefield and suddenly everyone is worried about, oh my gosh, discard, what if they kill this? And oftentimes all you have to do is just tap it in the mid game and you've upgraded into something really big and really relevant. I've seen this card do a lot of work in my Commander decks. Number 2, we have Vorinclex. Man, when they spoiled a new Praetor in Kaldheim, people freaked out. I mean, they didn't do very much with it, but Vorinclex still remains a very powerful card because it's got that doubling season mechanic on it. The ability to play a Planeswalker and immediately ultimate it's broken. It really is broken. It deserves a slot in my top 5. And then finally, the most powerful card from 2021 is Urza's Saga. Man, in a format where you can fetch a Soul Ring, Urza's Saga is phenomenal. It also just like taps for mana too. So it's just like a land that taps for mana and it automatically ramps you at the end of it. And then if you need to, you can also create constructs. Like you can just get value off of this land. It's so good. It's really good. Not to mention you don't just need that Soul Ring. You can get a ton of other different relevant artifacts straight onto the battlefield. Tutoring for free is powerful no matter what you're tutoring, and Urza's Saga is just over the top. Those are my top 5 favorite cards, top 5 most powerful cards, but of course, you might agree or disagree with me. Tell me in the comments down below, what were your favorite cards from this year? What are the most powerful cards that I left off of my short list? And also, what's just the best thing that has happened in Commander this year? Maybe you're a fan of the Secret Lair Stranger Things. Write that down in the comments down below. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I want to thank my sponsor, Cool Stuff Inc. If you get any cards over there, you should use the coupon code JUMBO5 and save 5% off your order. I also want to thank my patrons. They support me all the time. Thank you, patrons. And thank you for joining me for another year of Commander content. I'll see you all in 2022. Bye-bye.